This is Political Junkeez with Brian Howie.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome back to Political Junkeez, the podcast for those hooked on politics. My compadre, Michael Sartain, is, as they say, on assignment. Is he on assignment? He's doing something. I don't know what he's doing. So we brought in from the bullpen. This is a podcast, so you might not be able to see what he looks like, but you're going to have to pull this up on YouTube if you want. He does look like Bruce Willis, and we're trying to rent him out for bar mitzvahs and Christmas party. He's available for this. Craig Handelsman, how are you?
Available, yes.
People tell you that on the street?
Tell me that since I'm 15 years old, yes. Which is kind of weird, but yes.
That is weird. Were you bald at 15?
No. But
so you look like him in the hair phase
he
too?
had hair back then too. So
you've aged the same?
Appropriately.
You've aged appropriately?
Yeah.
Huh.
I could have been his double the whole time. It would have benefited me nicely, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think go out to a club and drunk, girls would be like, Bruce, and you could...
John wants to go to Australia and act like I'm Bruce Willis.
I think you could. I think you can go to Japan and places like that. I think you can. No.
I think you're still good.
Also joining me today, significantly more attractive and more important and better dressed than the rest of us.
Agreed.
She's running for Senate, and we're going to have to dive into this. Sharelle Mendenhall, how are you?
I'm amazing. How are you?
How does a nice girl like you get involved in politics?
Well, that's a great question. To be honest, I would have rather someone else step up to the plate. But if you've seen like the bystander effect, that's kind of the way I like to explain it.
Yeah.
Is I've been waiting and hoping for someone to step up and kind of turn things around for such a long time. And now you kind of see the catastrophe that's at hand. And the bystander effect is a bunch of people standing around watching something horrific happen. And the more people that are watching, the less likely it is someone's going to call for help.
Right.
So in this, there's so much of us watching, but no one's stepping up to the plate.
And you are defining the horrific as what?
The horrific is the crumbling of our country.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you could probably argue with that from both sides. Like, I think that you can blame whoever you want, but you could say, we heard that for the last, many, many years that people perceive that. That being said, before we started this, you're like, how did you start doing a political podcast? That is a much smaller leap than, I'm going to go for senator. And this is the seat currently held by...
Catherine Cortez Masto.
Who took Harry Reid's longtime seat, right?
Yes.
So you weren't like, I'm just going to, city council or state rep. You're diving into the deep end of the pool.
I don't want to be in politics forever. My whole entire goal is I want to take this and treat this like a business and help turn it around and then pass it on to someone who is going to take it and make it better. Even like taking that baton.
You want to flip the seat.
Yes, I want to flip this seat. But also I want to put like this electric fence around our freedoms and put that in place because that needs to go all the way down. And if I just go into, say, the school board or I'm just protecting that, I need to protect our country.
Have you thought about running, Craig?
Never.
Not
even for a half a second.
Well, I think about it all the time. I used to want to run for Santa Monica City Council. And
what made you not run?
It's pretty much the People's Republic of Santa Monica. Even if you have reasonable to slightly conservative views, you have no shot there.
Right.
None. That's why. Like, I was just like, this will be an uphill battle because it's a city council. It would be, I don't know the number. I think there's 8. It would be 7-1, 6-2 all the time. Felt like I couldn't get anything done. So here I am doing it here. How do you balance? A Senate has to balance their responsibility between the state, which is the state of Nevada where we're recording this, and sort of the national picture.
Right.
Which are you more worried about, passionate about? I know you have to balance both, but is there something like I've seen my backyard I have to protect, or are you looking at the bigger picture in terms of where we are as America?
I think that's pretty equal, across the board. I mean, I look at the numbers specifically. Take a look at our water issue. So it's like we have an economy, like we have so many different things we need to address, but our water issue, we're going to be out of water in 2035. That's pretty freaking urgent to me. So if we don't do something like desalination or, taking a completely new avenue for water.
And why are we going to run out of water?
Because we use and we've grown at such an exponential rate that we have not reallocated water since like 1947.
Do you have other options other than desalination?
Well, you gather a lot of the rainwater. We let it go. We kind of rely on. We're lazy about where our water supply from, and we're lazy about how much we use it. Especially, we're recording this in Las Vegas. They're not shy about water. We don't restrict it, but there's a lot of ways to gather water.
Right.
It's expensive.
Yes.
People we're talking about like, oh, we need a pipeline, just the way we do oil. Well, water actually costs more than doing that. It's not financially doable.
Right. So, but at the same time, we have to kind of take a look at it. So we actually have like 72% of our land that is public land. So federal land. So if we take some of that and bring in manufacturers and kind of do the numbers, so to balance that out, and then it is a big ticket. It's a big dollar amount in order to do that pipeline, but we build it and we're looking at paying it for maybe the next 50 years.
Yeah.
And is that bigger than having no water? I'm just curious.
Well, I don't mean... There's we went through this in California a couple of years ago. Oh my God, there's a drought, and
really
then
big military,
and then it rained.
Maybe we can use that.
And then there wasn't a problem in California anymore. The problem in Nevada is there a problem in Nevada? Is Lake Mead running out of water?
There's a problem, but then it'll rain. West coast of the United States.
It won't rain.
I mean, we have.
Well, see, it rains in California.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. All that water that comes down.
But the rain. Okay, but rain is not enough. It doesn't rain enough, and farmland is not farmed right, and things are not done right.
Oh, I agree with that. Can't we seed clouds like the Chinese do? I think we can. You put that on your platform. I think this cloud seeding.
I think this pipeline thing is being blown off very quickly and shut down without real research. I mean, I don't know anything.
I heard the other day, like somebody laid out the cost of it.
Somebody being whom? Somebody who's against it or somebody who's for it?
I think I just saw it because I wasn't for it or against it. My initial thought was, well, that's a good idea. And then I looked at it and they're like, oh, that can't happen because of the economics on it. Well, if the cost is no water, but we also don't seem to really be rationing even the slightest amount.
I think you're tapping the root of the whole problem is nobody cares about the solutions. They care about what their interests are. And really, if it's a solution-based problem, then both sides, whatever side, all sides come together to make a solution.
Do you think it's a climate change issue?
I actually don't.
Right. I don't either. So how do you balance that? Like suddenly we're out of water?
So one of the biggest things is you actually have to take the issue, weigh it. So it's a business thing. You weigh it. Like you were just talking about, like, do we just run out of water? Is that our option? No, it's not. So I'm also not going to lean on just one option. We have to lay
like a cost analysis type
correct.
Of thing. Yeah.
And then we kind of take a look at how we can expand as Las Vegas, as Nevada, and bring in different manufacturing. So we're not reliant simply on China for our manufacturing chips and things along those lines. We expand in the right way.
Right.
That means that it does give us the ability to spend the money needed to Nevada. We are a hub. We'll always be a hub as long as we have water. So I don't think cost is going to be a factor.
Well, but then there has to be some mechanism that triggers why we won't have water in 30 years.
Like if we said we could produce gold right now and we told you it would cost X amount of dollars, you would go, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it right now. So what I'm hearing is water is going to be like gold, right? It's going to be obsolete. So if it's going to be obsolete, then what's the cost?
Because it's not obsolete in,
we can't make it rain.
It rains plenty in the United States of America. We don't harness the rain. We don't harness the snow. 90% of our rainwater goes out to sea. It's some crazy stat like that. So the water thing, though, is not lumped into this mammoth infrastructure bill that it's being. There's a whole lot of shit in there, but no water. Is that right?
Correct.
And that's where you would start. Like infrastructure should start with water and aqueducts and
what is more important?
And all that.
Yeah,
correct. It should start with the basic need. Go to the poorest third world countries in the world, and the reason that they're so poor is they have trouble having water and clean water. And water, I mean, we all are sitting here with the water on this table. We probably won't drink most of it, and we'll throw it out. We don't think about it. And 2/3 of the country has too much water.
Right.
This part of the country has some issues. and pays no. We do not ration water here. California a little bit low. Your shower pressure might be a little less, but we are watering golf courses and gardens and fountains and all the time.
Yeah, as of recently, they actually sent out a voicemail, and you're supposed to only water on certain days.
They have that in California too.
And so that is an initiative that
car washing.
You're car washing, you're watering, you'll get fined.
Yeah. Desalinization seems pricey, but it seems like a better. It's
proven. That's what Israel does.
Israel does it, yes.
Like completely, right? Yeah.
Better option than what they're doing in Africa, where they're turning actual sewage into drinking water, which Bill Gates is a big funder of. which Americans,
no.
right? A little bit is the way we are as Americans, where our water source comes from. I'm not sure that we're not too prudish to even drink ocean water if it was desalinized. I drank a bottle of rainwater. It was some company at Whole Foods. I got a bottle of it. It was like some kind of. It was damn good.
Right.
Well, but
it was like Texas rainwater.
But here's the thing. I mean, are we really, if we're not drinking that water mostly anyway, we're talking about using that water for everything else. We're short of water. We don't, let's get real. I would say 95% of America doesn't drink out of the faucet in general, right? Like we all drink bottled water or
do in New York City,
filter that water out of being filtered. So,
right. It's very tiny percentage of our water. It's sort of like wherever the fountains at the Bellagio is from. You're not drinking that water.
Right. So the reason why the desalinization seems good is the machine or whatever it takes is already built and done in Israel. It just seems like it's just done, put in place, and pay for it.
And then you allocate. So, to your point, it does rain. We can funnel it, capture it, do a better job, get it into Lake Mead, hold it there. And then the other part is going to be more for your pools, your watering, your things along those lines to actually give and keep Las Vegas where it needs to go.
And with those, I think other states follow, and then you can talk about that pipeline when other states start to follow, and then you start getting closer to the states that have all that water that floods. You start, maybe we connect this pipeline to that pipeline.
And then I think you might even get into, we've talked about the terrorist targets in this country are always things that now that they worry about infrastructure and electrical grids and water supplies and Hoover Dam and all these kind of things, that the states are not doing what, Texas, good or bad, does have its own power grid set up.
Right.
They were fucked on it last year, but they do have it. The water here, most of the West Coast, Arizona, California, it is coming out of here, right? It's coming out of Colorado River.
Yes.
Was that the trigger because in your backyard that you're like, I'm worried about this. I need to do something about this. I need to run for Senate. They're like fast steps.
No, that wasn't the trigger. That was something as I was looking at it and wanting our economy to grow. So I care about small business. I care about, our growth. And if you're just going to care about that without looking at what is needed to support that, we've failed.
Right.
And that's something that we need in order to balance out all the other things that I want to do for this city, for this state, and for the country. And, that's kind of where that stemmed from. But, some of the things that tipped me over was our kids. What's happening to our kids across the board is you awoke a beast. So I may look, nice in a dress, but I will run through a wall.
Yeah.
If I see someone hurting our kids, and that's what's happening, and it's constant. And then
we are hurting our kids.
Yeah.
The actions of the last 2 years, we can argue about what they've done to the adults, but what we have done to the kids, there's no question that we are damaging our children without even a deep thought about it, without even a second thought about it. Let's mask the kids. Let's make them miss school. The kids will be fine. If I hear one more time that kids are resilient, well, you know what? You're testing them in a way that we never tested them for. It's not just them falling up and scraping a knee and doing this. You are taking away social interaction. You're taking away school from them. You're taking away a lot of things from them that they're collateral damage, which they should never be.
No. And we're talking about millennials who've never had to work hard a day in their life. They got participation trophies.
Yeah.
So it's not like they have this grit. And so, my mom's a therapist, and what's happening, the number of suicides in kids have skyrocketed.
Yeah. It's terrible. Emotional trauma we're inflicting on kids and we're not protecting kids. So you awake a mom and you awake certain people, that will change the country and that will start a movement. That still doesn't quite answer my question. Where you're like, okay, you had your eye on this. How far does this go back when you're like, did you think about it in 2016? She got in office in 2016 when Reid left. Did you think about it that far back?
I actually didn't.
So there's a recent thing.
Yes.
And you're watching her on TV, and you're just like, you know what? I want that job.
Actually, it's pretty specific, and if I may, so it was something that for a while, as I just watched, I've wanted to make an impact on my country, no matter what. It wasn't just specifically a Senate seat. It was the fact that I love my country and I want to serve my country. I didn't do it in the military, and I wanted an opportunity to. And I did that by philanthropy, creating businesses, things along those lines. Fast forward to recently and seeing what is happening and seeing no one have but the balls to stand up against the machine per se. And I was like, that's what I know how to do. You put an obstacle in front of me and I will find a way over it, around it, or through it.
You are running as a Republican?
I am.
How many so far have declared? It's still you still have 6 more months to get in the race, I imagine. People who aren't in the race yet. How many are declared? Do you know?
There are 3 others that I've seen. So
all
2
Republicans or just both?
Well, the incumbent.
Yes.
Nobody's running against her as an incumbent.
So
She's a Democrat.
Got it.
Yes.
3 are taking.
for the primary, which is in June.
Got it.
So the primary is in June. Where do you align with them and where you don't? At least on your primary challengers, do you know?
Yeah. So I would have to say there's one gentleman, his name is Sam Brown. He's in there, and I honor him for serving our country. His wife served our country. I honor them both. But with all due respect, I don't see that he's going to stand up for the issues that we need to, and I don't want to bash him in general, but something that I think that our country needs. Guess what? We actually
takes woman balls.
Well, but it's also about election integrity. And so if that's not an issue on your lips, if you're not talking about that, if you don't have a plan around it, you do not belong in this seat. There's no reason for you to step up and take the seat, because that is a massive issue that needs to be addressed now, not later. And it's not something we can walk past. So that is one thing. The next person has been a kind of career dabbling politician. Mm-hmm. We don't need more of that. Mm-hmm. We've already seen that. We've seen this person fail our state because of current losses, and now we're in the situation that we're in. So, again, with all due respect, step aside. It's my turn to go serve my country. Mm-hmm. And then if you feel like after that, you can actually become what needs to be for our city, for our state, and for our country, mm-hmm. try again. But not this year.
Does your blonde hair, beauty queen background work to get you some attention, or is it always going to be held? Like it's an asset on some, like, because it will get you. It gets you noticed, gets you attention, it gets you on morning television, it gets you all the things you need, gets you social media, but it's also used to belittle.
Yes.
But you've probably dealing with that your whole life.
Absolutely. And that's kind of why I feel like I have been prepared my whole life for this, because it didn't matter what I was in. I was in Future Farmers of America when I was a kid. I got blonde jokes all the time. I drove a tractor. I did all of these things like growing up. I grew up in the country, I rode horses, whatever. But just, fast forward to now, there are so many who belittle the fact. And it's like, why? Because I went after...
Especially women.
Yes. And I was like, why? Because I went after a title and won that title multiple times.
Yeah,
Am I being belittled?
Crosses everywhere. I think people belittle everybody in general. It seems this.
Yeah, we are belittlers.
Like, you know what I mean? I think it's just become just as bad as everything else these days. Is people are quick to belittle instead of understand or even accept. Forget even.
And girl-on-girl crime is the worst when it comes to this.
Oh yeah.
Right.
They don't want somebody. Oh shit, she's successful and she looks good. Well, there must be something else wrong with her.
Right.
They really don't want that.
Right.
They really, the women they want to push out front have to have sort of one or the other. They
push them out front, and then they want to bring them down.
Then they want to bring them down.
That's everything. That's
say what you want back in the day, and you can align politically however you want. The fact that women did not, on some level, rally behind Sarah Palin. She was a governor of a state, of a very large, complicated state with a lot of issues.
Right.
She should have at least gotten applauded for that.
Yes.
And if you didn't like her politics on them, but the first call is she's dumb, she's this, she's that. that was mostly women piling onto that.
Yeah.
They didn't champion her like they do some others who they don't perceive as a threat. Who I'll vote for her because she's not going to steal my husband.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I think this is my stance on this. Look at me however you like. I don't care. Judge, but get to know me. And then if you don't like me at that point, feel free to go kick rocks. I mean, I don't care. It's not an issue. But know that I'm here for you. And if you want to stand with me, by all means, I will be your best friend. If you don't, I'm still going to be kind to you.
You are or were a Trump supporter?
Both. So I actually was in Los Angeles when he was elected the first time. And I was getting bashed by simply having those views. They're like, oh my gosh, how could you possibly? And it was like, I looked at his policy. I'm a policy person. I sat down, I read his policies. I said, I align with his policies versus anyone else. And so that's why I'm voting for this person. Had nothing to do with his tweets, his demeanor, his pandering, anything along those lines. Had everything to do with policy.
Is there a way then to balance that? Because a lot of people who are running and they're attaching themselves to Trump on some level are not attaching themselves to the policy and the things they agree with. You sort of have to go all in. It's a tough balance because you want the Trump vote. And a lot of people, I mean, that's still a big pool. I'm not sure it'll still be a big pool a year from now. So you kind of have to weigh that all along, that you can say, listen, has nothing to do with the person, but these policies are things that I believe in and we should really take a closer look at again.
Right.
That's a reasonable approach to it. It's hard to do. Right?
Yeah.
Because you obviously at some point would seek his endorsement.
He actually endorsed my opponent already.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. So
Were you already in?
Career politician.
Were you in the race then?
He has no idea. Like, he has no idea that he endorsed the wrong person. He does not know me, and he endorsed someone who has name recognition, and...
He's flipped. It's not too late to change that.
I would definitely change his mind. If he met me, I would change his mind.
6 months before. It's plenty of time.
Yeah, it is plenty of time.
You may not even want his endorsement by 6 months.
By that point.
Who knows?
Right.
Also
and
true.
who knows? Like, who knows how radioactive the Trump name will be, or who knows where we are as a country. Maybe the Trump name will be, people will be longing for the glory days of Trump. We don't know. It's a fast moving ship.
Right. I like the idea of just going back. I am not political on any level, like, sadly, to be on this show, but
welcome.
But obviously in the last 4 to 6 years, 8 years, you've kind of been forced on you regardless. So talking about policy is, I welcome that and open to discussion of any policy, to have a rational, honest, open discussion and not to have.
Well, yeah, a lot of people come on here and they say, I'm not political. We have this all the time. You have an opinion, you live a life, you're affected by issues. People don't like the rhetoric and people don't like the arguments, but you have passion about certain issues.
I think, okay, so yes, I'm passionate about anything I talk about and anything I look into and anything that I have interest in. I think calling yourself political in this heated time makes you feel like you're going to get pushed to one side. I don't want to be pushed to any side.
Right.
Like, I don't like, to be honest with you, what I didn't like about Trump in general was the fact that it was pushed into social media. Look, it wasn't a secret before he came on to politics that people had different opinions and didn't like each other. Like, that's not a secret in America. The secret was it was able to keep to honest, open discussions in groups that mattered, not blasted everywhere and with no opinions.
What would have happened?
All opinions and no facts.
That's a chicken egg situation. So yeah, Trump and social media coming together at a perfect storm. Mm-hmm. But let's just say the Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky shit happened during the age of social media and Twitter and Facebook and all that. I thought the storm and the pros and cons and all that would have been...
It would have been nothing.
It would have been huge.
It wouldn't have been.
There's certain things that you can look back and be like, oh my God, thank God we didn't have Facebook then or Twitter then or everything. I think that Trump was sort of the fuse, but we were waiting as a society to go after each other on a lot of levels. I don't think Trump caused it. I think he was sort of the rock that everybody threw through the window. You know?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, he threw himself with that rock through the window. Like
probably true too.
I mean, that's what he wanted. Like, that's what got him what he wanted. Which is all power to him. That's the strategy. His strategy and what he went for got him what he wanted, and that's.
Well, at some point, this country though was ripe for the grenade.
Totally.
100% agree.
Well, and he had his finger on that pulse.
Yeah, and he was, and that's
he knew ahead of time. Like, he was 3 steps ahead, knowing that.
got to give him credit for that. He's
sure.
a very keen social observer. He does understand human behavior.
For sure.
You know, a lot of that is his business world. A lot of it is reality TV. Like, he understood that if he dove in the middle of this, which is just as good chance as anything. So all of the elements have been there for a long, long time. We have been contesting elections in this country for since Gore Bush. There's
Absolutely.
people around still think Gore.
Since they started,
actually,
I
goes
would say.
back around. Like,
I don't know if I'd stop at Gore
but we talk
Bush.
about, I know, but in terms of this sort of couple generations, you can go back to Khrushchev calling Kennedy my president because he thinks he influenced. I mean, you can go back 100 years. We've always there's always been meddling. There's always been, but we have been contesting just about every election since 2000. You know, people thought Obama didn't really win. You know, both sides of it. That this is an abnormal way as Americans for us to have political discourse and have discussions, and it's not productive. Everybody thought things might calm down a little when Biden got elected. It might be worse.
It's by far worse. One of the things that I think that I see is just we have advanced so far in so many different ways, but yet we have and continue to fail with a voting process that makes people feel confident that we actually have a voice. I posted the other day a picture of the 5th century, like, you know, when they were counting via rocks. You know, like that was their original way to vote. And it's like, you literally can't flip that. You can't change it. That's how it is. And I was like, why have we come this far and we don't have something to ensure that, you know, when you show up, like, because I'm encouraging you to vote, but when you show up, I have no guarantee to say your vote matters. And that's what is so asinine to me, is that we haven't gone through, made sure that we have the fail safe, because we have so many different ways to do it, but we're not instituting it. Why?
We can't vote online still in this country. You know, there should be a way you fingerprint on your laptop and you vote.
Yeah, but if you voted online, then people would say, "Oh, there's a way to hack that." And
I get it. I get it. But the technology, the way we,
this is just a rabbit hole. That you're not,
I agree.
There's no digging. Like unless you go in and write it down, and 6 people verify and triplicate and this and that, and you sign it.
My grandmother was 88 years old, and she's working this archaic polling site in Poughkeepsie, New York, for a year. And I'm like, she's not checking anything. She's not doing anything. Voting integrity, I get. It's also part of the game. Right. It's a long tradition in this country. What, other than vote, what is the first step that you think your average citizen can do, other than getting arguments on Facebook and other than, are there steps that you're like, you know what, everybody should do this or can do this? What can we do as citizens?
Get rid of
somewhere
Facebook.
Between running for Senate and you know, marching? Is there something that, like, you know what, I wish more people did this, besides come on Political Junkeez, of course?
Well, I mean, I definitely want them to come on Political Junkeez. Yeah. I think that one thing that's really necessary is kind of taking a look at the issue instead of sweeping it under the rug and saying, you know, it's not really impacting me. So, for instance, the schools, like CCSD, I'm going to attack CCSD right now because they're overstepping boundary after boundary after boundary. They need to be a parent. They need to be present, because so often we're literally passing the buck. We're passing our kids off and we're not present. We're not having a voice. We're not making sure that it doesn't get to this extreme point. So as a citizen, when it matters, get involved. Don't just stand over here and bash everybody else that has a different opinion. You need to show up. And that's my biggest thing. You need to show up for the things you care about and do something about that.
So stop talking shit and take action.
Yes.
Well, right. A lot of times, especially recently, the more vocal minority is pushing the agenda. A lot of parents like, you know what, either I'm protecting my job or I don't want to get involved. Right. And then a small handful of louder people who might not be the voice, they are dictating it.
Most people are scared to speak.
They are scared to speak.
Be judged, and they're afraid to be
judged, spare their job, and I respect all of that. But you are basically putting your kids out there to fight the fight that you really should be fighting.
Right, and we're slowly losing so many freedoms because we're doing that, because we're afraid. And so that is why I'm skipping the 10 different steps in order to get to a place of influence, because I don't have time, in my opinion. This country doesn't have time to turn around, you know, in 2050, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, Trump didn't run for New York City Council. He dove right in the deep end of the pool. Same with Schwarzenegger. So did a lot of people, you know. sort of neophyte politicians are just like, I have an opinion and I have a plan, or I think I can get things done, or I'm better off than the career politicians.
Yeah.
Career politicians, you can argue, a lot of things in the last couple of years that just because somebody's been doing the job for a long, long time doesn't mean they are competent or qualified to do it.
100% agree. And it's infuriating because some people just want to get their name on a bill and like have that doesn't go on your tombstone. Like the money
doesn't.
Our country is literally in shambles, and people are not taking, the proper steps. Like the oxymorons are insane. The vaccine. We have 623,000 adverse effects. Reported to VAERS, and we have 680. That have died from COVID. So, look at those numbers. There's two, they're two super, super similar, and we're not paying attention to numbers. Numbers have to matter. What's coming across the border, the drugs, human trafficking. There are so many different things, and the numbers, people aren't paying attention to them. We're not making the change. We're not standing up and saying, this is an emergency. We need to close our borders. We need to make sure people, aren't just bringing drugs and allowed to be human trafficked. Every 30 seconds, someone is trafficked.
Yeah, I know. And they're just things, though, that like that, they're really complicated. The border issue is really complicated. Mm-hmm. Both sides have tried to figure it out for a long, long time. We can't completely shut it down. You can't pick and choose who you want to let in here. Can't open the spigot and let everybody in here. It's complicated, and nobody can get a real... You could have the greatest plan in the world for this. We're not going to get it through because we have this breakdown at the... federal level that isn't going to get us anywhere. I don't know what we do about it. What do? We can't just say nobody can come in the country for 20 years.
At some point, this is kind of the way I see it. Mm-hmm. At some point, we need to take a look at America and say we need to be healthy first. We have to take care of us first before we can help everybody else. So do we close it for a certain amount of time? I'm not talking 20 years,
right?
But a substantial amount of time. So then we can institute something like a migrant program.
What's a substantial amount of time?
I would say, I haven't done the specific data. 5 to 10 years is really what I was looking at. 5 to 10 years. I haven't weighed out which one is better or the whys behind that. But we do have farms. We have things along those lines, which I'm not ignoring, where we will need migrant visas. But we need a better check-in process. We need to have penalties if they don't check in. There's so many different things and loopholes where...
Well, then what about the argument that there's a lot of talented people from Southeast Asia who we want to come to this country because they're the mines. And we want to attract talent from different... Because then you're getting to an area where like, okay, then the cracks happen in this big wall. We got to let them in, and there, where are we?
Okay. But then it's on us to educate and develop the minds here. I'm talking about the fact that we need to focus on our camp.
I agree. But that's tough to do in 5 to 10 years.
But they can both be done. I mean,
yeah, but I'm just saying to...
okay, we could focus on both. I mean, I think...
We can, but both those things, it'll take a generation to change, to turn this ship... Because our schools are still mostly local or private. So to turn that battleship around and start educating Americans better, which we don't do, that's going to take longer than shutting the border for 5 or 10 years. So I don't say I have an answer to it. I'm just saying it's really complicated, and... there's some issues that everybody, sort of like guns.
There's a lot.
I mean, there's things nobody's been really gets anything done either way because it's really complicated.
Okay, but then we can look at it and say, hey, guess what? It is complicated, but at the same time, we have to take that first step, and we can move, we can pivot as we're turning this ship, but we have to take those first steps as we look down the line and say, hey, guess what? This has to happen now for us to get some sort of grasp on it. Do we have to extend it at that point? Yeah. I do believe in the fact that we can get both done. I think that we are brilliant enough to do that. But at this point right now, it is so open. We're allowing so many things to happen to our country. We're not getting a grasp on it. We're not educating. We're not focusing on it. We're grabbing from other areas versus saying, hey, let's actually look at our education because it's horrible.
Yeah.
But let's focus on that instead of worrying about...
But focusing on our education...
Borders. Like, I think education and educating... I'm not saying ignore. What I'm saying is focusing on education. I feel like, sadly, this country can't do more than walk and choke and chew gum at the same time.
Well, I'm not sure. Focusing on education is just hard to do at a federal level. And I don't think waving a wand and giving free college or absolving college debt,
Agree.
I don't think that's the answer either.
No.
I don't think the college level is where the issues are.
No, I think it's at elementary school and everything. Should there be more federal funding given to the states to increase the program? Yeah, but then you have all kinds of teachers unions. Like it's just a real can of worms that we're opening here. I think it has to start at home.
100%.
I agree with that. But a lot of parents have either lost their way or trying to let Apple do the work for them instead of parenting. And it's a challenge. There are complicated issues, and I do think it will take a unique voice to plow through them. Trump, if Trump had like 30% softer bedside manner, he probably would have gotten a lot more done. He just couldn't rein himself in to do that.
Do you know the numbers?
If he didn't have Twitter, he would have got a lot more done.
I agree.
Honestly,
the anger, he could have.
He created his own.
He did
shitstorm of anger. Unfortunately,
I agree.
In his way that he wanted, but I think
it was a game.
When you create a shitstorm, it's hard to pull the shit back.
But a unique, strong, ballsy voice, I think, can get things done.
Correct.
Do you know how many accomplishments he had during his presidency?
Well, I mean, that's nebulous. It depends on what you consider to be an accomplishment. Like, I've seen the list.
Yeah.
Some of them are good. Like, and you could do it the other way, like giving Biden's accomplishments, and they put out a press release of a bunch of bullshit too. But I think if you have to look about big picture.
Correct.
COVID doesn't happen. Trump gets reelected, I think, in a landslide.
Yeah.
So even though people were mad and whatever, the country was relatively doing fine, and people would yell like, no, we had racial issues. We've had racial issues here for 250 years. Mm-hmm. That didn't just happen under Trump. He would have, barring something crazy, and you can't ever say barring something crazy with that, he would have got reelected fairly easily.
I agree.
Which means that people, even those who opposed him, kind of said, were like, this really isn't so bad. I know I bitch about him. I don't like him personally. They were kind of okay with it.
Because of their pockets. Because of...
Yeah.
Again, if he was off Twitter, I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, the only thing I had to... I didn't even mind him before, just the Twitter thing. And I don't have Twitter, just... It forced the conversation on people who didn't want to have the conversation. And I think that's why he got his ass kicked. Because people who didn't care before and would prefer not to care were forced to care because everybody started talking about it.
Yeah, so every conversation is a referendum on where you stand on.
When I say I don't care politically, what I meant by is I didn't care to have a conversation every day about politics. But
does Trump come up in every interview you do?
Right now, that has been a major theme.
The media won't let it go.
No, they won't.
They want every conversation to be a referendum on Trump or where you stand.
Well, I brought this up on too. He wants that. He's still
he likes that too. But I brought that up on a couple podcasts ago. If you go on a date now, before the edamame even hits the table, they want to know where you stand on Trump.
Before the edamame? I'm sorry. The first text or second text.
No, I know. Seriously, it's real early.
It's as the number's given. Are you on your Bumble profile?
People need to know right away. You used to be able to be married to somebody for 5 or 6 years, and you might not even know how they voted.
Correct.
Now he is omnipresent. Mm-hmm. So I think that should go away a little bit, but part of him is he's leaking out, I'm going to run again. He wants to be in the conversation. He wants to be a player. He wants to be a kingmaker. He wants to do all of these things. But at some point, when you're getting interviewed or you're campaigning, the Trump shadow has to go away, and it has to be like, these are my ideas, this is what we need to do, and this is what I believe in how we fix America. Mm-hmm. And that's hard to do because you still kind of need a little bit.
I think that's going away.
Yeah, only because we're not quite in 2022 is a whole full speed election cycle again.
It's a long time away. So I think more people like yourself will come out where you'll start speaking about the policies, and not his. I mean, let's be real. There weren't even his policies. He didn't have a policy. He adopted the Republican policy as he started running and as he started going. So if you go back to Republican policies and start focusing on policy and being able to have those discussions, perhaps the distance will, he's going to fade himself out.
Yeah.
If people start caring about
But there's so many
that.
Polarizing figures now. AOC, Pelosi, Mitch, Trump. I mean, there's just so many characters in this play going on now. The biggest challenge for you is the Blonde hair or fundraising? Because those are both
they actually kind of go hand in hand. I've had some people, ask the question, what does a beauty queen know about anything?
Well,
did you win a beauty award?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was Miss Nevada United States. I was Miss California. I've had like a...
Oh, shit. I had no idea.
That's a pageant big enough,
awesome.
though. You shouldn't be able to win 2 states.
I know,
right?
Yeah.
You're a multi-state winner.
It's
amazing.
You should have to stay in where you came from.
It was
going around stealing titles from other girls.
I lived there at the time, so I lived there.
Is that the qualification?
Yes, that is the qualification.
Okay. I guess Mitt Romney was a senator in 2 states, right? Or was a governor in one. He was Massachusetts and he was Utah. So I guess you could do that.
You can
so
move
that
states.
should, I mean,
but
like everything should help and hurt in certain areas.
It does,
in some
exactly.
areas.
And in some things, and so at this point, I'm not going to sit there and allow that to kind of distract me. I'm running full force ahead. And again,
but money's a huge factor.
Money's a huge factor because one of the persons that is running against me is going to easily raise $25 million. Even in the primary race, which is in June. And, I really like the grassroots. I, think that also, our nonpartisan, our independents, our libertarians need a horse in this specific race because it is in your face. And you've said that multiple times. It's in your face, even if you don't want it to be. But you actually have to stand up at some point and say, hey, guess what? I'm going to be counted. And that means that even in the primaries, you actually have to change your status to Republican in order to be able to vote.
What does it take? What does it take to get on the ballot? Does it take a certain amount of signatures to get on the ballot?
For me, or
yeah, for you to run. Is there?
You just pay here. You just pay the fee.
Oh, you just pay the fee and you're on the ballot.
And you're on the ballot. Yeah, because so you can actually technically have 20, 50. You can. There was someone.
Travis, get my checkbook. I have to be a Nevada resident, which I'm not. They must give you a ballpark. Like, what is the dollar amount needed to be competitive in a Senate primary? Is it $5 million? Is it $2 million?
$12 million.
$12 million.
Yeah.
$12 million gets you in the game.
For this one specifically, yes. Because it is such a highly sought after race. Like, this seat is pivotal across the country. So, in order to have someone strong enough to go against Catherine Cortez Masto, that is where, everything lies, is right there.
Both Arizona seats are up. Is that right? I think they're both Senate seats in Arizona are
state. Well, it wouldn't be both the U.S. So.
Yeah, both U.S. Senates are up. I think they are because he was finishing. Kelly won.
Typically, it's staggered.
Yes, typically it's staggered. I'm not sure it is because I think both Georgia seats are up again too. Somehow it got screwed up because they were both finishing a term, so they were shut down.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that. I could be positive, but I'm not sure. But yeah, there's quite a few up. Mm-hmm. But they typically go in a certain way. They go to a certain way, so it's every 2 years. Some are up, and it does stagger, so you don't replace both. But midterms are always favorable to the opposition party, typically, which bodes well, especially in a purplish state like Nevada. Are we considering it purple, or is it still a red state?
I would say that it is red. But if you take a look at the numbers, it's definitely been purple-ish, just over the past few years, and the tension and the people who the narrative, the loud that are causing the narrative. But you look at the counties and just all of northern Nevada is red, no question about it.
Right.
There are only 2, counties that actually have any sort of.
Is your strategy to go after those counties hard, or to try to sway the purple into, or yourself?
Yeah,
for
that's
that
a good
matter,
question.
Or yourself, for that matter.
Do you play to the base, or do you try and convert people on the fence?
I think it's a numbers game. You have to do all of them. I have to work harder than everyone else. And so it isn't, just me being able to go after one because this is such an aggressive race. So there are 560 something thousand that are the base. But then right in the middle, there's also almost 900,000, which are your independents, your libertarian, you have those groups. So I have to go after them as well.
Would you sooner go after your opponent or go after the votes?
What do you mean go after my opponent?
Yeah, you know what I mean? When you're running, when you guys run, you run, and then when you get to a certain point, you
start attacking each other?
It's either they're voting for you or voting against
because you got to
start,
there's a strategy, right, where you have to take the votes that are out there, and these votes may go to this person, so you know what I mean? It's time to start talking.
Who did she beat in 2016?
I actually don't know.
Travis, get that Google out. But that person is not.
I was not here.
But that person is not running. I take it.
No.
The question I have is, do you go?
I think maybe Dean Heller.
Do you?
Someone like that.
I've always been curious to know, do you go after the votes at that point?
For me,
directly?
I want to go after the votes. So it's something that I'm really passionate about is I want to, again, I'm not going to change the world in one single cycle. We've already talked about that. But there's something to be said about the fact that I can bring honor to the table. Honor looks like you having a different opinion, but you know and believe that I'm going to represent the people of America, at that table. So instead of sitting there and bashing and hating on Catherine, go look for yourself. She's done.
It's oddly going to be tougher for you to win the primary than it would be for you if you got through that.
Correct.
Because then all the attention, then it's just me against her.
100%.
It's woman on woman, and here's our issues, whatever. Trying to differentiate yourself from at least two other dudes. Yeah. And so you're kind of attacking her, you're kind of attacking the Democrats, you're kind of attacking Biden, but then you have to kind of go after your Republican opponents. That's a challenge.
I like to attack the policies. So I like to attack policies. That's really what matters. So it's like where they stand in their stances, it's the policies. And then I can bring up the things that, hey guys, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm going. Are you coming with me?
Is there a major policy difference that you see against your Republican opponents right now? Is there one thing that you're like, I'm not on the same page with them besides shut the faucet off?
One of them is voter integrity.
Voter integrity.
Yeah.
So they don't. I'm not saying they don't care about it, but they're not leading with it.
I'll say it.
They're specifically one of them is saying, let's just move on. Like it's in the past. And for me,
you're into transparency.
Yes.
Right. You're into. Okay. So is that
a subtle shot at the 2020 election?
For me specifically, a shot?
Or do people interpret it that way? If you talk about voter integrity, is that code for Trump beat Biden? Is that?
It's code for I know, and I have seen the numbers, and there is fraud and has been fraud. And we have a number of more than 40,000, whether they're dead, people that have voted here specifically in Nevada. And so for me, I care about cleaning up our voter rolls.
But do enough people care?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I know, but you want to win.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of pick on what enough people care about.
The polls are 80%.
It's sort of like somebody just said to me, Beto O'Rourke is getting in to run against governor of Texas. And I heard somebody say like, oh my God, he's going to win because of what happened with the abortion ruling. Well, that's like 8th in terms of priority if you live in Texas.
It's top 2.
Yeah, no.
Election integrity is top 2.
Yeah, right. In Texas, they care about guns. They care about all kinds. Just because you don't live in Texas and that's an important issue to you, it doesn't matter. Same thing with you, though. Mm-hmm. Is voting integrity enough of an issue for people in Nevada that you have to lead with it? Yes?
It is. Top 2.
What's one?
It was a couple of different...
Probably taxes, I assume, but guns, taxes?
It was actually Second Amendment was up there as well. So I've seen a couple of different polls, so I don't want to... Some of them were independent, so I don't want to just give a blanket statement. I've seen guns up there. I've seen taxes. I've also seen... and water wasn't even pretty much on there, but again, I'm looking at it as economy.
See, I don't personally care that much about election integrity because I think it's a game. And however you play the game is how you win. Honestly, that's my opinion.
I kind of agree with that.
It's been going on for a long time. If you're better at the game, you're better at both sides.
If you both play the game and you lose, then you lose.
Yeah, both sides are trying to win at the same game.
I have a love for integrity, though. I
get that too,
especially in sports.
I have a son. Okay, so I have a perfect example. I have a son who plays sports.
Okay.
And he plays football. He plays baseball, but he plays football once in a while and played an organized football. Mm-hmm. And he was like, came after game, Dad, they're pulling on me and they're wiping their flag and they're breaking all the rules and the ref's not calling it. And I said, okay, and that's not right? And he said, yeah. And I said, but also when you're in the game, the ref decides how the game and the rules are played. So if they're not calling it, then you can do the same thing. So if the rules of the game are being called a certain way, how can you expect the other team not to play against it?
Sometimes you got to win to make the change.
And and I get that. And for me, it's a hill that I'll die on is integrity. And because
But I can get in the election by writing a check. That seems like that should be barrier 1.
Yeah, why would you want to die? Why would you want to die on a hill that doesn't get you the ultimate goal, which is to be able to make changes that you want to make changes? I guess that's what I was getting at earlier.
Yeah.
Was which you obviously have hardline issues.
You have to pick your battles. Yeah.
Which hardline issues are you going to give in on? Because you're going. You're not going to be able to go on all your hard lines.
Right. So I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I compromised my integrity, when I'm running in this. So it's just like that is something that's massive for me. So if I have to knock, 567,000 doors personally in order to get my name out there and get people out to vote, I will spend countless hours. I will do fundraisers. I will go wherever it takes in order to get that without losing my integrity. That is something I can't and will not do for God, for myself, for my family, for my country, because that's what I'm standing on. And that's why I'm running, because I believe America is better than that.
What was the conversation like with your family when you're like, I think I want to run? Because that's putting them, everybody's
exposing
fair
them.
Game. Yeah.
I'm supportive for the most part. I have, sisters, and something that is, and people talk about a lot, and they ask is like, well, I have an older sister that's missing. She went missing 4 years ago. And, so many people bring that up in conversation. And so it's not an easy topic, especially for my family. I think that's probably the hardest part, is dragging them through. Almost every single time there's an interview, that's something that is talked about. Yeah. It's in bios, it's in interviews. So I think for me, that's the hardest part, is like to put my family through that, where they have to relive it, because we don't have answers. Other than that, for that, by the way. Thank you. Other than that, everyone has been amazing, and they love me, they support me. They don't all have the same views though either, which is great, and I respect them.
I assume it's going to ramp up as we get into next year. Is it every day you're working on this now? Is it, when does it become just 20 hours a day?
It's 20 hours a day now.
Oh, now.
It is now. I took a little bit of a birthday trip in Destin, Florida, which was absolutely beautiful.
I know, it's lovely. Powder beaches.
I had never been.
It's really nice.
And so I took about 9 days, and then as soon as I landed back, it was my sprint/marathon. I am an activist as well, so I care about philanthropy and making the change. That's why I'm here. If not like for anything else, it's just like I would look at myself and say, in history, I wouldn't allow myself to, I guess, get past the fact that I didn't stand up and be counted, and not just at a rally. Like, I want people to have faith in a system. I want integrity. And I'm not saying like rules that you can't step outside of the box, because we're supposed to step outside of the box in order to create in certain, aspects. But I believe there are things that are harmful, that are hard, that are damaging to our country. Those are the hard lines in the sand. And some people may say that it's impossible. Some people may say that it can't be done, but I will die trying.
Good for you. Yeah. I mean, ballsy, whether you agree with your policies or anything. I mean, you have to give credit to putting it takes balls to run, to put yourself out there and to stand up for what you believe in. A lot of people wouldn't do that. So that takes more than writing a check. It does. Final thought, preliminary pitch to the people of this country and Nevada as to why they should get on board your train here?
I would say the thing that sums it all up is that I'm here to fight for the people. This is more than, just another voting, situation. This is for America. This is a war. We are in a war that is digital, that is virtual, and I'm here to win. And I want people who are patriots to stand and hold the line with me.
Plug your website.
Sharelle for Senate, the number 4 Senate.com. See me there. You can see a little bit more about my story. You can see my policies. And donate there as well. I'm
not going to ask you this question because I don't want you to get in trouble, but I'm going to ask you this question, Craig, because it's the first time on the podcast. Give me a conspiracy theory that is kind of out there, but you're like, yeah, you know what? I kind of believe that one.
Ooh, wow. I like that.
I'm like only like 95% sure on the moon landing. I'm like, this maybe, probably, but I have some wiggle room on that. I don't think Stevie Wonder's really blind. Like, I have some things. What do you got? Is there one that you're like?
I guess for being able to save time and not spending a lot of time thinking about it, I guess I would go with aliens in outer space type things.
Okay. Are there aliens dealing at the Bellagio? Like, do they walk among us?
I would say no.
You'd say no. You think you've not seen an alien today?
I don't think I've ever seen an alien.
But you believe they're out there?
I do not believe they're out there.
Not among us, but no aliens in the space? No. We're the only ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm willing to believe that.
Okay. I don't know. I don't really have a thought on that, but we're in Area 51 country.
Again, show me different and I'm down.
Have you been to Area 51?
No.
Roswell? Is there anything to see down there?
No. I haven't been invited.
I haven't been invited either.
If I get invited and they show me, then maybe I'll believe it.
We asked that on a prior episode of this. Does the president get all the files? Like, give me the no, they don't.
Like he just had a desk.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I want to give me the. Can you bring me the Kennedy file?
Can I get the Anderson conspiracy?
They don't
file?
get the file.
Yeah,
No, they don't get it all.
But that would be such a treasure trove. I would lock myself.
Right, but I think
hours.
I think I'd run for president.
I think he couldn't. But I think that they can't even get to the guy who does have the file. Like everybody has some sort of deniability. So even the CIA head, he doesn't suddenly. There's like a middle level person who really has it.
Are you going to write a movie on that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good thing to write.
I go with the whole Kennedy shooting too, but I mean,
you think what? Lone gunman?
Yeah,
that's really a boring theory.
Again, there's the answer. Okay, again, I am probably the wrong person to ask about conspiracy theories because I don't buy it.
You're like, nah, it's all just as they told me.
That's why they're theories and not
COVID
reality.
from a bat or a lab.
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, you got to pick one.
I would say a lab.
Oh, see, that's a little.
If I had
that's
to
a little
guess,
conspiracy-ish.
I would say a lab, but I don't. I would say a lab by accident, not on purpose.
Not intentional. Yeah, probably lab.
Not released on purpose, but by accident. Yeah.
Experiment again. I won't get you in any trouble.
I know. I was like,
yeah, you don't have to say. Don't say a word.
All right, you guys were awesome. Thank you. Good luck with everything. As far as us, share, follow, and please review this podcast. Your reviews mean a lot in the podcasting ecosystem. Good job, Travis, and we will see you next time on Political Junkeez.